you can see on the right side of your screen, there is a question and answer section. So you're all on listen only mode. That way we don't have any barking dogs or screaming children in the background, which is definitely a thing as we're all working from home now. So that has its own unique set of challenges. But you'll be able to type any questions that you have. So, and that will show up on the screen. So the panelists, myself and my colleagues can see that. And what I will do is I will go to the presenter who's presenting, and I will ask the questions live so that everyone can hear the question, and then our presenter can answer that in real time. So I encourage everyone to type in answers, or excuse me, type in questions as we're going along, and we will ask them to the presenter real time. And then also at the end of the webinar, we will hang out for 10-15 minutes as long as you guys want, and take additional questions and have additional discussion if anyone like. And then of course, any other questions that we don't answer today, you can reach out to us, customer service at biomark.com. We will also record this webinar and it will be posted on our website. So if anybody wants to share it with anyone else or wants to go back and review anything, you can do so as well. I'll introduce a couple people really quick and then we'll get going. First is Armando Piccinini. He is our Europe sales manager. He is on the call with us today. So Armando, maybe if you want to jump in and say hello to everybody.
Hi, Dan. Thank you for the introduction. And yes, I just would like to thank you everybody for joining this webinar, which is actually the very first one of this series of webinar from Biomark. So thank you for joining us, and I hope everything is safe. And I also hope there will be no earthquake during the presentation. And thank you to Aiden, Matt, and Elsa for putting this together. So I hope everybody will enjoy the webinar about the DCM software. If you have any question, go ahead. You can also write me or to the Biomark customer service.
Thanks, Armando. Yeah, I hope there's no earthquakes while we're doing this presentation either. So if Matt's screen starts shaking, you'll know what happened. So Matt, I'll go ahead and introduce you. Matt's one of our sales reps at Biomark. He has been instrumental in the testing and prototyping of the data collection module software. He's our resident expert, so he's going to run through it today, show you all how it works. So Matt, with that, please take it away.
Thanks for the introduction there, Hayden. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my kitchen in a beautiful frosty morning in Boise, Idaho. The data collection module was created to allow a seamless wireless data collection from a variety of different measuring devices. And it all goes to a small mobile platform, like a small tablet. The DCM is affordable and it's extremely user-friendly. It allows the user to modify and add data fields on the fly. So today we're just going to go through the Windows 10, which is the newest version of the DCM. We started with an Android, but we're going to go through the Windows 10 version of it. And I figured I would start by just showing you guys some of these peripheral devices. So this is the 50 centimeter measuring board, and it's constructed out of high density polyethylene, HDPE. They're all hand welded and sealed here in Boise. All of the fittings and all the lights are all IP67 ingress protected, and they're all capable of actually going through salt water. All the screws are stainless steels as well. The sensor on the inside of the board is accurate to 0.05 millimeters, and it uses these small little 1/8 inch magnets to actually mark the length of the desired species there. You get 2 of those styluses. Let's see. For the webinar here today, we'll be using our HPR Light Reader, which is our nice little compact handheld reader that's waterproof. We'll also be using the OHAS Scout 6201 scale. This guy has the little Bluetooth module on the back of that. And so that's the key to all the peripheral devices, that they have to be a Bluetooth transmitting device to allow it to talk wirelessly to the tablet. This guy is rated 6,200 grams, but they do make a model that's actually higher than that, that goes to 8,200. And currently we're working with Kern in Germany right now for I think it's a 10 kilo scale they make. That's an industrial washdown scale that has the internal Bluetooth. If you already have a scale, and it has the way to a way to transmit data, meaning it has like an RS-232 serial cable coming out the back of it, or has a USB cable coming out of the back of it. We can add it to the program. We just need to know the data stream that actually comes out of the scale. But there's a lot of these little Bluetooth modules or Bluetooth dongles that you can adapt to these scales to actually get them to work. For our scanner, we have this cool little D720 Bluetooth scanner. This guy, excuse me, D740, this guy has the ability to run both, to read both the 1D and 2D barcodes. And so it is a nice compact package that has is water resistant and also ruggedized. I've dropped it on the floor a few times. For our tablets, we offer right now, this is the Dell 7220 tablet right here. This is a beast of a tablet. It was designed more for the medical industry to actually fit into the docks on ambulances. It's a ruggedized waterproof tablet that has a nice stylus that comes with it. And then it has dual batteries in it. You can actually hot swap the batteries in it right there as well. It's a very nice tablet. The key on that one is that it has to be Windows 10 Pro. This is the little Samsung Tab Active 2 tablet right here from Android. And this is a really nice, small little compact unit that's water resistant and also drop protected. It also comes with a nice little stylus on the side of it as well. The key to any of the Android tablets is that they have to be Android version 5.1 or newer. So those are some of the devices that we'll connect to here in a little bit. And I thought I would show you guys just a screenshot of what you guys can accomplish with the software. Let me pull up the screenshot. Here is a screenshot of.
Matt, a question from the audience that came in via chat on the tablets. They asked about the dimensions of the tablet, requirements there, and then also, is that something they have to purchase from Biomark?
Good question. No, you do not actually have to purchase the tablets from us. It's just something we offer. We actually don't even mark them up. We just kind of pass them through to you guys. A lot of agencies cannot buy software and a computer from two different agencies, so it's nice to just package it all in one. But if you have a Windows 10 laptop, a Windows 10 PC of any sort, you can actually install this. It does have some dimension issues. You need to have at least an 8-inch screen on the tablet itself or the computer. Obviously, computers have a little larger screen than that. It needs to have 256 gig hard drive, 8 gigs of RAM, and the real key to this is it has to have Bluetooth 4.2 or newer. I think they're actually on Bluetooth 6 now, but the Bluetooth stack actually makes it connect more solidly to actually all the peripheral devices simultaneously. It needs to have a camera if you want to use the image feature on it. It needs to have Wi-Fi capabilities right now, and that's pretty much just to download the software and also to export the software off of it. And it needs to have an internal GPS if you want a GPS location actually on the software itself. The Samsung, again, I think it has, well, I know it needs to have a 7-inch minimum screen size. Most of the small Samsung or Android devices will have an 8-inch screen. It needs to have also a Wi-Fi capabilities, Bluetooth, and a camera. But again, it just needs to be Android version 5.1 or newer.
Okay, great, thank you.
So this right here is a template that I built to test some of the template sharing abilities of it, but this is kind of gives you an idea of what you can actually do with the software, and you can even keep going on this. So if you needed to do several weights, several lengths, you can just keep adding them in there. But I figured I would show kind of the end product, and then I'll show you guys how you can kind of get there. So when you open up the software, essentially you'll have this screen right here. When you open up the software, it'll give you which application version you have. We're constantly updating this, especially for certain customers. If we need to add a scale or if we need to add a different peripheral device than we do, it'll be a new version. So it's good to check that every once in a while. And the way you do that is you actually go to the store. If you go to the Google Play Store, if you have an Android device, or the Windows App Store, that's where you'll actually update these from. And so if you just navigate to BioLogic DCM, you'll see an update button, or it'll say most up to you're up to date. But that's important to check every once in a while. The sessions, now this right here on the top, this is your daily tagging events, but this is also how you would build a template to use. So to begin, you just click on the create new session up here in the upper right hand corner, and then we'll type it, we'll name it something, webinar 2. So once you name it, it immediately takes you to the configure menu. Now the configure menu on this allows you to add all your Bluetooth devices and allows you to add all your data fields and all your metadata that you would need to collect. So to add Bluetooth devices, there's 3 tabs up here on top: Bluetooth devices, data fields, and general. On the Bluetooth devices, it's the first one there, and you'll essentially just hit add Bluetooth device. Now it'll bring up a list of different peripheral devices that we have already kind of paired to the system. So you'll have an RFID reader, measuring board, scale, calipers, barcode reader, label printer, and external GPS. For this one, we'll just click on the RFID reader, and I already have a reader actually paired to it. And if you click on it though, it would actually bring up a list of all the different devices that you've ever hooked to. For this demonstration, we'll use the HPR Lite that I've already paired to. But if we wanted to pair a different device to it, like say we have a different reader that we've never paired to it, you would just go to paired devices. And then this is a list of all the paired devices that we've actually paired to the software. And then we'll just go to Bluetooth setting. You do that, the Windows or the Android actual Bluetooth settings itself. And then you would turn your reader on and click add Bluetooth or other device. It's a Bluetooth. And so what it's doing right now is it's searching for all the Bluetooth devices that we have out there. And it takes a sec to find it. There's the measuring board. It's on. Ooh, I bet this is it. I bet it's confused. A lot of times the computer doesn't know what actually the readers are, and so it'll call it a Bluetooth headset or it'll call it a scanner. Yep. So there's our GPR Plus reader. Hit connect. And then down the Windows menu, and then you can just hit this refresh key right here, and the refresh key will refresh all your Bluetooth devices, and there's our reader right there. But for this one, and then you'll see it added to your queue right here. But for this demonstration, we'll use the HPR Lite. And here's our measuring board. I've already added it. If you had several of them. So the whole idea behind this was that you could add every peripheral device that you had. Say you had 4 measuring boards and 4 different tablets. I wanted to make it where you did not have to have a specific tablet with a specific measuring board. If you wanted to, you could go and you could add every measuring board to every tablet you had, and in the morning you just simply pick and choose on what you needed to add for today's study. Add our scale. We'll add our scanner. Now down here on the bottom, this is your record.
Matt, a question from the audience. They wanted to know, when they add a device, do they have to go back and add it to the tablet settings, again, or is it always there?
It's always there, and it will remember every single Bluetooth device that you've ever paired to well, every single device it recognizes as a scale or a scanner or an RFID reader or a measuring board. It'll always be there. To actually get rid of it, you have to you do the same thing, just your Bluetooth settings, and then you can come down here and remove it. And so this is actually how you remove it, and then once you refresh it, the GPR Plus disappears.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mhm. On the record auto advance down here on the bottom, what this is designed for is is designed to eliminate a touch of the tablet or a touch of the computer by simultaneously creating a new record and saving the previous record. And so for this is generally the first thing you do when you tag, when you're doing any sort of interrogation. If you are going to be tagging, sea turtles, it's the first thing you do. And so generally for most people who are using pit tags, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to scan a fish, you're going to scan a turtle, you're going to scan a rock, whatever you're tagging. But it does not have to, it does not have to be that. I mean, you can see that you can use the reader, you can use the measuring board, you can use the scale, you can use the barcode reader. But for our demonstration, we'll set it to a tag detection. Now that we have all the Bluetooth devices added, then we come over to the data fields tab. Now the data fields, this is where you will add like your species and your minutia when it comes to each individual tagging record or not data collection. And you'll see that we already have 4. Now, if these 4 are actually linked to the 4 Bluetooth devices that we added. And if you need to edit them or anything like that, you simply just select them. And like if you wanted to rename this barcode, if you wanted to rename it, say TSU vial, you can do that. You can add any sort of alerts required. You can print to a label. And so this is important, especially for some of the aquaculture facilities who are looking for specific tag IDs, specific traits that you can actually print out on like a 1x2 label and stick it to the side of the tank. But if when you start adding more and more, you just come up here to add add tag data field, and then this brings up a list that you can possibly do. And so it gives you text, numeric, yes, no, time, date, multiple choice. It gives you all these different ones right here. One thing that's important to point out is that if you're using an RFID reader, you do not need to use the time and the date because it'll be duplicated. When you scan a tag, the string of information that you get is the time and the date and the tag number. So that information already comes over. If you're not using a tag reader, then you might want to put it in there, obviously. Text, this is going to be the full QWERTY keyboard on a touch screen. And so for this, it's good for like, comments.
Matt, question for you from the audience. Wanted to know cost of the system.
Sure. Yeah. So the software for the first year is $495. Then for previous years after that, it's $375. The reason it's more expensive the first year is generally that pays for my time to install the software, and if you want, I'll build a custom template for you to kind of get rolling. If you want to email me or Hayden or Armando your data sheet that you take, I can actually build a template to replicate the exact data sheets that you're already taking in much more of a wireless, easy to use platform. And then it also covers any sort of calls that you guys, feel free to call us, email us, and things like that. The 50 centimeter measuring board is $24.50. And I forgot to mention as well that when you do buy the measuring board from us, you do actually get this nice little soft case. Let me pull up my screen here.
Matt, all the numbers you're quoting are US dollar, correct?
Correct. Yeah, excuse me. So that you get actually this nice padded soft case that comes with the price of the board, and it also includes the charger, and the charger does work on 220, and so it does work in the UK or in Europe. Has all these nice pockets on the inside of it, separators to separate the board. Also you get 2 styluses and you get a tablet stand with that as well.
Great, thanks. And then the price on the tablets as well?
Yep, the price on the tablet right now, we have the Samsung for 480, and then the price of the Dell tablet is 2550. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to mention as well, we do offer a large 1-meter board as well. I'll try to pan my camera up here so you can see it. It's gigantic. It actually is hanging over the sides of my kitchen table right now. But and the price of that guy is 2850. So we do have that one as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
So, and then you have a numeric data field as well. Now, the numeric data field is designed for just numbers. It will not only pull up the 10 key of actually the of the keyboard. And so that's good for like if you had a secondary tag ID, like if you had a metal clamp, or if you wanted to do a second length, like if you wanted to do a total length. The yes no feature, this is going to be a sliding bar on the front of the screen when we actually start tagging. And so this is good for like if you're doing like a mark recapture, you can say, is this a recapture? Yes or no.
That question that just came in.
Uh-huh.
What if I want to add measurements like length and weight by hand and not via the measuring board or a scale?
Yeah, absolutely. So all these peripheral devices are nice. They make data collection much quicker, much more accurate, but you do not need any of these peripheral devices. And so if you just wanted to run a tape measure or put it on like an old measuring trough, you can absolutely do that and then just hand enter in the information. For that, for like lengths and weights, you just hit the numeric one and it just brings up the 10 key on the touchscreen, and then you just type in the length. Right now, you can only do a single length per single measurement per device. We're working on doing a multiple measurement, like if you needed several lengths or several weights. And so that'll be introduced in our new version 2 software. But if you just needed several lengths right now to start with, you could just take a total length with the measuring board, and then you could do a, width if you wanted to, or you could do a fork measurement by hand, and the same thing with weights.
Okay, great, thank you.
The multiple choice, now this is a really cool feature. This is your quick acquisition list, and so this is things for like things that you see all the time. Species is a great one for this. A quick acquisition to make a new species list. I'll show you guys how to do it really quick. Just type in the name that you want. And then you come up here and you always hit the plus button to add something new. And then you just type in, whatever species you want here. Now the code here, this is something that's completely optional. The code is a shortened version of the thing you're after. And so a good example for this is like in the Pacific Northwest, we have a database that we report to called Patagus. Now, Patagus does not care that it's a wild summer Chinook. They want to know if it's 13W. And so this just gives you a shortened version, or allows you to upload your data to certain databases. But again, it's 100% optional. And we'll just keep adding species here. Until you kind of have a list of everything that you're ever going to see. And then it'll ask you to name it, and you name it species. Now, if you wanted to edit this, this is a couple things that are really cool. I would always make something required on it. That would be something like species is a good example to have something required. You're generally not going to pit tag everything, or you're not going to take measurements on everything, but this allows you to at least recognize that, yes, this is what we're seeing. This repetitive feature down here, which is really cool, this allows you to, well, what it does is when you scan a fish and then you put in there that it's a brown trout, the next fish that you scan will be a brown trout, And we designed this so that you can again, it just eliminates one touch of the keyboard, one touch of the tablet itself, to just keep rolling and rolling and rolling. And this is important for like hatchery situations where you might only be tagging or might be measuring brown trout all day long. And so I'll show you guys more when we actually get into the tagging of this. If you ever need to edit it, you can edit the list right here and keep adding to it. And once you're done, you always hit save. Now, calculated field, this is your K-factor stuff. This is Fulton's conditional K-factor for salmonids right here. And obviously the salmonids are going to be different than carp or, northern pike. And so, but you can actually enter in your K-factor formula right there. Now the tablet image, this is really cool. This allows you to use the camera on the tablet and take pictures of whatever that you so if you have like an injury or parasites or something like that that you need to document on certain tag IDs, you can always take pictures of them. Now down here we have a couple different GPS options. The external GPS, this is designed for the sub-meter accurate GPSs. I believe Arrow does one and they're a couple $1,000, but I think it's plus or minus 3 centimeters. But it has a Bluetooth feature to it as well that allows a data stream to actually come into the tablet itself. Or you can use just the tablet GPS. Now the tablet GPS is only accurate, I believe, to plus or minus 3 to 5 meters, which is going to be like your standard Garmin handhelds. And so feel free to use the tablet, or you can use an external GPS if you need a little bit more accuracy. We'll add that.
Matt, a question that just came in on the GPS. I think you may address this in the next part of your presentation, but a question is it possible to use GPS from the tablet to record the start and end point of a section where a fish was caught?
Yes, and so especially so on this right here, this will actually show exactly where you tagged the fish or where you started doing your tagging. So if you're using it walking down the stream, and a lot of people do this, which is really cool, you can actually just put the GPS, or you turn the GPS of the tablet on, stick it in like your waders, and we have these antennas that you can walk down the stream, and actually when you pick up fish up with your antenna, it'll actually give it a GPS location. If you need to just mark, like say the top of site, you come into the general tab right here. Now the general tab, this is going to be just all metadata, but it has this location feature on it right here that will allow you to add a new location. So when you add a new location, so say like you're doing a 200-meter transect and you wanted to come and add a location, we could call this, Hayden Creek. And location area, location code, again, this is more for certain agencies that require this, so it would be HC, SRs, Hayden Creek Salmon River would be the location code. Now the GPS coordinates right here, this is my house. Nobody send me anything nasty, but you actually just hit this little right arrow, this arrow on the right here, and it actually locks that GPS location in, and then you could top site. And so we have a list right here of all our different locations, and it will pop them all up. Now, the important thing to point out on the general tab is this is all just metadata. This has nothing to do with each individual tagging record. This is going to be for, the office, who's in the office, that, who's the administrator, who's the person that gets the end data. And the same thing, if you just hit the edit screen here, and we added, an administrator, we can add, I can't spell Armando's last name. It has too many C's and too many I's in it. Piccicio, something like that. And then we can just add his email address down here in the bottom as well. And so what you do there is this is the person who is going to get the data. This is your end person of your end administrator.
Matt, 2 questions on that.
Uh-huh.
On the general fields, is that something that's required, like the data fields, or how does that work?
It is not required. This is going to be your general observations of the site that we saw today, but it is not required because it has nothing to do with each individual tagging record.
Okay, great, thank you. And then backing up a little bit, a question that came in a while ago that I'm just getting to now. On the multiple choice field, is that something that can be uploaded from an external list, like an Excel list, or does that have to be manually entered in the software?
You can. It's pretty quick to manually do it. Oops. But I believe on a multiple choice list, let's take a look here. You can add it from a file. And so if you had a massive list, you can append it from a file. And I believe it has to be in a text format. Yeah, it's not doing it right now. But that's something that we're going to add in the future, that if you had massive lists that you needed to bring in, you could suck it in via text.
Okay, great, thank you. And then another question that came in on the 50 and 100 meter, or excuse me, 100 meter, 100 centimeter.
It's
Well,
earlier.
that would be a huge one.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to know the weight of each of those boards.
Good question. The 100 meter, the 100 centimeter board is 34 pounds. It's an absolute monster. The smaller board is only 10 pounds. And so the size difference is apparent between the two of them. Oh, also, I forgot to mention the battery life on these guys is outrageously long. Each of them have a 40 plus hour runtime. I have left them in my queue turned on over the weekend and came back and like, oh, I forgot to turn my board off, and they're still running. So they have a massive runtime.
Okay, great, thanks. And for our European crowd, that's 4.5 kilos on the 50 centimeter and about 11 kilos on the 100 centimeter.
Yeah, I don't know my kilos, sorry. So the general tab is also good to just add like comments, like, and so if you wanted to add not comments, but like, conditional, the environmental conditions of what's going on today. And so if you just come up here to add session field, you can add something like, tagging water temp. Or if you wanted to create a multiple choice list, you could do, who's tagging today, And then if you wanted to add something like, is it, environmental conditions, is it snowing, is it raining, you can always do these in drop down menus. But again, this has nothing to do with each individual tagging record. And I'll show you guys when we actually export the data out, where this data ends up at. So now that we've added kind of everything that we want and all the devices that we want, it's time to start doing some tagging. And so you have these really cool features right here. Now, if you click on the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner, you can create this as a template. And this is important to know that you only have to actually do this one time, this initial setup one time, and lay out your tablet. So you can create a template, whatever you want. And save it. And it saves it as what's called a JavaScript file. Now, these JavaScript files you can email. And so the beauty of this is that you can make a template as a administrator and then email it out to all your field crew and say, hey, use this template right now. And it's very, very simple to load. All you do is you can come back to your session screen right here, hit the 3 dots, and then you could basically create a new session from a template. And all you do is you click on it, and it brings up, have them all in a file. And I have them all right here. No, we're not going to do it right now, but it's just important to point out that these are very easy to share these templates throughout the whole organization. And so if you have somebody in different states or different countries and you need to say, use this template, we've added it, we've changed it a little bit, you can email it and load it very, very, very easily. Now, this button right here is called New Collection. And so the new collection, what this does is this actually clones all of the data fields, all the Bluetooth devices, all the general information with no data in it. And so what it does is it just makes an exact copy of yesterday's work. And so this is important that you can literally use, you only have to create this template one time, and then you just hit and create new data collection event. And this goes through, and you can call it, you know, April 2nd. And this will basically make a exact copy of what we just made. But this is nice because then you only have to do it one time and you just keep hitting new collection, new collection, new collection every day. Now, once we have done that, if you ever need to add anything, you can always just use the configure key right here. But if we turn everything on here.
Matt, a question
Uh-huh.
on that. Does a new collection have to be done every day, or can a user just add to an existing file?
If you wanted to collect 10,000 tags in one session, absolutely go for it. I would recommend at least pulling your data off your tablet. You know, you don't have to do it every day, but once a week would be good, you know. And there's a way that you can filter the data when you export it out that I'll show you guys when we get there, that you can break it up into different days. But I always kind of make a new session every day.
Okay, great, thank you.
Now, once we get everything entered in that or started that we want, you just hit Start Connect. And this doesn't to the scale, talk to the scanner, and start connecting to every single different peripheral device. Now, you remember we said that the trigger event right there, I'll take my cursor away from ads so you know it's magical. If you just scan a tag, you magically just start tagging. And then on the scale, you just hit print and it pops it over. Now, the nice thing with the TSU stuff is they have these tiny little little barcodes on the bottom of them that this guy can actually read, and it pops it up. Now, if we wanted to do a second length, you could do a second length right there. Is he a recapture? Sure. The species, you just click it and it pops up. If you wanted to add any comments, you could. Now, one thing I want to mention too is this right here, this percentage, this is actually the battery percentage of the board itself. On our new version 2 software, we're going to attempt to have actually all the battery life of the peripheral devices up here in the top header right here. We're still working on that. Now, without actually hitting save or anything like that, you just simply scan another tag and bam, pops up. And we'll mark it, weigh it, take a TSU sample. Each of these TSU vials is its own unique number. So, and then one thing that's important to mention here too is the newest one is actually the top. To actually get this accomplished was a little tricky. Just keep running through some fish here. This is just really a nice way to take data pretty quick, and it eliminates a person actually sitting there and collecting data as well.
Two questions just came in. The first one is, can you edit a previous record? And then the second one is, what happens if I need to edit or change a data field while I'm tagging?
Sure, absolutely. One thing that's nice is when you're on this screen right here, that conveniently hiding is perfect timing. If you actually needed to edit something, you just double click on it. The only thing that you cannot edit is the tag ID, because believe it or not, handheld scanners are actually much more accurate than we are. And so if you needed to re-length them or anything like that, you can always do it right here. If you needed to reweigh it, right there. If you need to add any comments to it, you can. And then when you finish that, you just simply hit save. To add a different field, like if you forgot to add something, you just hit stop, hit finish real quick. And what that did is it went through and actually disconnected from everything, all our different devices. Then you'll come back to configure right here. And so say we forgot to add Armando's favorite fish. Click on species, click on edit list, add a new item, and we'll add the old common carp.
Just made Armando very happy.
I know, right? Oops. So another thing I forgot to point out as well is that you can use these arrows right here to kind of organize how your data flow comes in. And so if you want species up near the top, you just keep hitting the up arrow and it moves it up, moves it up, moves it up. If you also needed to put constraints on it, say we only have I think this measuring board only measures to 540. So if you wanted to put in 540 here, it would actually not measure anything longer than that. And then once we have edited everything that we want, we simply go back and we just hit connect. And then we can continue tagging. Just keep. But yeah, this what I can do too is I can turn the camera on a little bit bigger and I can run through some of these with you guys real quick and show you kind of how the speed I'm working at. It's the same tag. So you can really move through a lot of fish really quick. So here's all the fish that we were actually taking measurements on right there. So once you've collected all your data that you wanted to actually collect, one other thing I wanted to show you guys too is say we had, we were out doing a stream survey or we're in a hatchery scenario and we just want to make note that we had, a lot of carp in our study that day. So nothing is actually required except for species. And so you'll check mark next to it. These validate. It's a valid field when it has a check mark next to it. If there wasn't a species there, you would have an asterisk next to it because that was the only one that we made required. But today we saw 32 common carp. And what it does is it just creates a group. And so, we have 32 common carp. There's no other information needed. We just wanted to say that we saw that many fish. And so this is,
Hey,
okay.
Matt, can I jump in? Sorry, just had a stream. I think my I had a delay on my Q&A here. I just had a stream of questions come in, so let's get after them here. A couple things here. Can you set specific conditions or a warning when a value, say a length measurement, is unlikely to be true? I believe you touched on that, but can you hit that again?
Sure. And so what you can do is you can set, let me go back to our data fields here. You can set validation rules or constraints, so especially on like lengths and weights and things like that. Now, if you wanted to set a conditional factor, like a K factor, if you know the formula, you can set that up there. And obviously, if it's like, so a K factor, a perfect species would be 1 on that, and on that formula. And let me see if I can pull up. So this is Fulton's K factor right here. And but this is for salmonids, and so there is K factors out there for every genotype of species out there. And so if you wanted to actually put it for common carp, it would be a different formula, but you enter that formula in there, and when you take a, and all it is a length to weight ratio. Now, a perfect species with its correct K factor would have a K factor of 1. On salmonids, if you have a 100 millimeter long Chinook that weighs 10 grams, that is a 1. But if you basically vary anywhere from, 0.6, he's kind of skinny, or 2.0, something is wrong. Like you made an error right there. Now, what I was going to do on version 2 is have a warning that would pop up that, hey, by the way, this K factor is way off. But again, the problem with that is that it varies per species, and so that'll take a little bit of doing, but we're working on that. You can also set, I know I didn't enter anything in. You can also set weight restrictions, and so the scale only weighs to 6,200 grams. You can say anything from 1 to 6,200 is where you're at. Anything over that will give you an error. And so if you add anything that's, if you accidentally slip up, instead of 3,600 grams, you put in 36,000 grams, it will actually put an error message up there.
Great, thanks, Matt.
No problem.
Another question, and if I apologize if I don't ask this correctly. If I do, please retype the question. I think someone is asking, essentially, they want to survey a 200-meter stream section, and they're not collecting data on fish with pit tags in them. It sounds like they're just going to be taking lengths, weights, that sort of thing. But they want to set the GPS start point, but they want the software to alert them, once they've gone 200 meters, I think is what they're trying to ask. Is that possible, or how would they go about that?
That would not be possible on that. That would require, actually, I believe, the tracks form. Yeah. We haven't got that far yet. That's a cool. That's a great idea. Virtual measurement with GPS via the tagging software, but that's something that we have not covered yet. It'll give you, real-time GPS location per recorded individual, but it won't tell you when to start and when to stop.
Okay, great, thanks.
So once we've collected all this
Sorry,
data,
Matt, one more.
go ahead.
On the K factor, I assume this question is regarding the K factor. You can set it differently, obviously a different formula for different species, correct?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, you just need to copy and paste the K factor for what species that you're going to be tagging. Unfortunately, you can only do it for one species on here. So obviously, if you're going to do it, I would do it for the species that you are obviously interested in. And so if you're tagging Atlantic salmon, I would put the Atlantic salmon K factor in there. If you observe a common carp and want to tag it, the K factor is going to be way off the charts. You'll have a K factor of 3.5 compared to 1 or 1.5 or 0.8 on the K factor.
And then Matt, thank you. And then another follow-up question on the restraints. Can you demonstrate how you set a restraint on the length and then measure a length outside of that?
Sure, absolutely.
Show us what it does.
Yeah. And so we'll just set it to 200. I put the max on there. Did I save that? I saved it, didn't I? Let me try it again. I did, okay. Everything on, everything turned off. Turn my scanner and reader back on here. Man, I'm powering through coffee now. It's great. And so we set the length restriction to 250, and then you see over here that you'll have an exclamation point. Now, once we try to see, it won't actually let us save it. And if we try to even scan another tag, it'll be record cannot be saved. Record saving is triggered, but is missing or invalid measurements. So that is what the message that you get when you have a required field that's not populated and you have something wrong. And like, oh yeah, that was too big. It's 25. And now it'll let us save it.
Okay, great. Thank you, Matt.
No problem. That's a small carp. So once we get done collecting all our data, I'll show you guys real quick on how you actually export all your data out. And so on this key right here, you'll have just the big export button right here. Now this will allow you to put time and date constraints on if you wanted to, like you were saying, Hayden, if you wanted to collect 2,000 fish, but you wanted to, you know, do it over a week period, but we're only looking for, you know, April 1st or what's the day? April 2nd. But for this demonstration, we'll just export out all the data. Now, if you click down here, you'll see that it brings up 3 different formats that you can export your data out in. So if you're working in an Access database, you would export it out in a CSV. For this demonstration, we'll just do Excel, or you could go to a text file as well. And then you simply hit export. When you export it out, it'll bring up, I already mapped a folder to my desktop right here. And what it does is it gives you the time and the date stamp right here, but you could call it anything you wanted. So if you wanted to call it Hayden Creek, April 2nd, you know, 2020, you could do that. When we navigate to our desktop, here's our data. So here's all the data we took. Now up here on the top, this is all the metadata. And so this is really just not important to any of the tagging records. We just had to put it somewhere on the exported sheet. Here's the time and the date from the handheld reader. Here's the count. This is how many physical count we had. Here's our tag ID, species. Now here's where the code would come through if you wanted to shorthand it: lengths, weight, TSU vials, comments, total length, recapture, and here's all the GPS locations right here. So that's pretty much how you export the data out. One thing I did want to show you guys too is back here on kind of the top menu, or the hamburger menu. I didn't know it's called a hamburger menu, but people who use Twitter knew more than I did. You have all these tags of interest keys. Now what this is this allows you to upload a massive amount of tagging data into the program. If you wanted to upload 10,000 tags in there, you absolutely could. Now this is really important, especially in the aquaculture industry when you're doing broodstock pairing. If you needed 2 fish and you have a tank of 2,000 fish in front of you, but you just need 2, and you knew their 2 tag numbers, you could go in and just highlight this one and copy and move it into today's session. And then you can just start tagging. Now, the nice thing is, or just scanning, is you can actually associate a message per tag number. And so, you know, move to tank 3. And so when that tag is actually seen, you'll hear a very annoying loud alarm that comes off on the device. And also you'll have a message that pops up and says, hey, move this fish to tank 3. which is, it's really cool. And then another feature that you're going to see here as well is just your settings. Now the setting, this is going to allow you to choose your audio settings. I'm hooked to a headset right now and it only comes through on my ear, but I can guarantee you that this siren is quite annoying and loud. But it gives you, tag match sound, tag ID received, length received, weight received. It gives you all these different options to make a noise from the tablet. I usually turn most of them off except for the tag match, just because I don't need a tag, an alarm going off every time I scan a tag. I don't need a noise going off every time that I take a weight or a length. And I know you guys over there in Europe use a lot more of the decimal format. And so to change it on there, it does not matter actually what your handheld reader set at. You can have your reader set at hexadecimal. As long as you change it here to decimal, all your tag IDs will actually come in. The next generation of software will also have these question marks just throughout the program that'll give you an idea of what are you talking about here. So it's kind of going to be a nice little help feature that we offer. Down here, this is the web portal. Now with
A question for you on the tags of interest.
Sure.
How many tags of interest can be uploaded?
It's really dependent on actually the internal memory of each of your tablet or your computer. Andre, who's the software developer, he and I chatted about this the other day, and he said millions. So I mean, you can really dump a lot of tags into that tags of interest field.
Okay, great, thanks.
Now the web portal, what this is this is going to be something that we implement also in version 2 that will allow this automatic data offload, meaning that you actually don't need to move this data via Excel and then email it actually to the person. So when we did that general setup, when we had the administrators, that's and you put the email address in there, that is the person that when you walk into the building and your tablet hooks to Wi-Fi will immediately start offloading the data. If you have a active Wi-Fi signal at your tagging facility, most people don't. It would basically it would be streaming data to a cloud as you actually tag each individual fish. I'm not sure, but my guess would probably be like 10-minute close to real time, similar to our BioLogic software now. But this will allow the administrator to receive data without having to export the data or have to save to a thumb drive or anything like that. Another thing I wanted to point out as well is this is very easy to move this data to a thumb drive. You essentially just copy and paste an Excel sheet onto a thumb drive or a flash drive, but it's also really easy to just put it into an attachment of an email and shoot it off that way. And then the about portion right here, again, this is just going to tell us our application version right here. So that's pretty much all I have for you guys. Is there any questions that you guys have?
Matt, I've got a couple that are stacked up here for you.
Sure.
You mentioned IP67 on the ports. Is that saltwater as well?
Yeah, it should be fine for saltwater. All the fittings and all the screws are all stainless steel. Saltwater is its own beast, but I would wipe it down after each tagging session. But for ingress protection, it's pretty much submersible.
Okay. And then is there any real-time backup on the data when you are in a tagging session?
So it does save the tagging records as you go to an internal database that's behind the scenes actually logging all this information. But as for like a backup, not right now. In the future with, you could get a cell enabled tablet like I know Samsung does a bunch of them. They would be able to basically, I believe, real-time stream to a cloud, but as on the computer itself, there's not a backup, no.
Okay. And then another one, I'm going to read this off to you. I believe I understand this, and I'll try to rephrase it if I get it incorrect. A customer is interested in tagging several species, and they want to set restrictions on the length for each of those species. For example, stickleback 2 to 15 centimeters, eel 6 to 100 centimeters. Is there a way to do that in the software? Would they have to change that for each species?
They would have to change that per species, yes. And so it only allows you to actually just put a restriction on the length of the entire board. And so unfortunately, like per species, that you would not be able to change right now, put restrictions per species on actually the length measuring board.
Okay, and then if they were entering lengths manually though, could they do, one field for stickleback, one field for eel, and then put individual length restrictions on each of those fields? Is that something they could do manually?
Like you wanted to just create different sessions and
So,
then
like if say they weren't using the measuring board, the external, the peripheral device, and they just did, let's just call it length 1 and length 2, and length 1 would be for stickleback and length 2 would be for eels. They could set a length restriction on each of those fields, right?
yeah, I mean, I guess you could. You would have to trying to think of how you would do that without causing too much confusion in the system. Once you select a species, then you would have to, and this would be into the nested data fields that we're working on right now. And that is when you select a certain species or a certain, attribute, then it opens up these fields. And so you would select stickleback. And then if a stickleback is going to be only in this size range, only in this weight range with this K factor. And so we're working on that right now, and that's a good question, and I will get back to whoever asked that question with a lot more detail.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matt. And then another question, is there a module to keep track of the detection stations, so locations, latitude, longitude, that sort of thing? I believe you touched on that.
Like on per device or the modules? I guess I don't understand the modules.
So I think they're meaning if we're at a particular detection station, so like a location, I think is what they're getting at, is at a particular field location. How are they? Um,
Yeah, absolutely. You can add as many locations in there as you want. I mean, you could load a summer's worth of field work into the locations and then just pick and choose from which location that you're at. And then it'll give you you can, and then don't lock in the GPS code. And then once you get to that location, then hit lock and it'll give you a GPS location of that area. Yeah, absolutely. That's something we could do.
okay, great, thank you. And I apologize if I asked that incorrectly. Please rephrase that if I didn't. A couple other questions for you, Matt. You'd mentioned, I believe, Android, Windows compatible. Somebody wants to know if it's Apple compatible.
We're working on an iOS version. There is hoops you have to jump through to get everything iOS, licensed, and so we're working on that. And then eventually, in the future, we will have an iOS version. But right now, Windows 10 and the Android 5.1 or newer is our system requirements.
Okay, great, thank you. And then my last question here in my queue is, can you revisit the connecting a device again?
Sure, absolutely. So we're going to add another reader to our thing, and we don't see it in our list of devices that we have here. And so we'll just go to our Bluetooth settings. And then it just goes out and it's searching for it. There's our measuring board because it's on. Still looking for the GPR. There it is. And you simply just go back and hit refresh. And there's our reader right there. And then we just go back. And then hey, there it is. So it's really quite easy to add different devices to it. And the nice thing again is that if you wanted to add, if you had, 8 readers and you wanted to add all 8 of them, what I would do is literally take a Sharpie to the back of them and write your serial number on there. And the serial number, that's this number right here, is the serial number of each of the reader, and that's their Bluetooth MAC address is also in there as well. But it's just, quicker to grab a reader, grab your tablet, grab whatever measuring board, and then really quickly in the morning you can just pick from a list of all your different peripheral devices.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matt.
No problem.
Let me check all the questions here. I think we've gotten through all of them. Thanks again to everyone for attending. We will go ahead and hang out on the call here for a while in case anybody has any other additional questions. They can certainly type them and enter or type them on the side here, and I'll ask them to Matt. Once again, hope everybody is safe and healthy during this time. And thanks again for joining us, and we'll watch for future webinars. We'll do our best to get these out in a reasonable manner, and so that we can stay connected with you and you can stay connected with us, as many of us are working remotely right now. So I see there's more questions coming in. Matt, we'll jump on those.
Sure.
So how are the images from the tablet stored?
Sure. It's actually served as a link into it real quick, and we can actually add, we can do that really quick if we wanted to just add a picture. And so what it does is it's actually a great thing because it links a, oh, I turned everything off. It links a image to each of the tagging records, and so it's a really cool way that you can associate a unique ID with an image. And so let's just, I don't know if I turn this on, there we go. And so if we wanted to take an image, you just click on it really quick. Hey, there I am. Flip the camera around. And if you wanted to take a picture of Mr. Fishy, and you accept it. And so what it does is it links this address to the tagging record. And so when you export out the data, you actually have an address to actually go in and link to that image.
Okay, great. Thanks, Matt. Some feedback for you. Thanks for organizing this webinar. It was very interesting and nice tools.
Good.
Good job. Then another question that came in, is the caliber function, do we have a solution for that, or is that something that's still in progress?
No, I mean, we have a solution. Our software developer is having real issues. Calipers refresh extremely fast. And so it's like a scale, but worse when how fast they move and it's every time that a droplet of water drips onto your hand. I'm giving you a scale example. And so we're working through the issues right now. There's 2 companies out there that do a really nice ruggedized waterproof Bluetooth caliper, and one of them Silvac and one of them's Fowler. Well, doing some investigation, I found out that Silvac and Fowler are actually the same company. Silvac is the European version, and then Fowler is the American version. And so I have them here, and we're working on it, and Andre has got them to work. They just don't work quite to our standard yet, but we're still working on it. And so, yeah, those will be available.
Okay, great, thanks. Some more feedback for you here. Attendee says, great work. I'm excited to start working with the DCM and RFID reader. This was very useful.
Good.
Okay, well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. So once again, thanks for those who are exiting for joining us, and we will get this posted on a link on our website. So if anybody needs to share it, review it, they can do so. And then any questions you have, you can reach out to customer service at biomark.com. You can reach out to Armando directly as well. So once again, thanks everybody, and we will hopefully see you at some of the future upcoming webinars. Thanks again, Matt.
Thank you guys.
All right, bye everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Matt. A great presentation.